dkdynamite, and tonight we're going to be talking about the early Grief gameplay, new rewards and zombies, and a ton of surprises that you may have missed. Definitely stay tuned. Now, I do want to thank every single one of you for showing some love in my big Season 4 reveal live stream, where we converted as much as possible into a bunch of separate videos. There was a lot getting announced that I'm going to end up talking even more about over the next couple of days as we await the official launch on May 29th. Let's first address an elephant in the room real quick, though. Something I didn't really talk about at all earlier today is the fact that on the roadmap and in the zombie section, there's no mention of Janice Towers, aka DLC 4. Now, I get it, some folks have brought up that, hey, Firebase Z wasn't ever on the Season 1 roadmap for Cold War, and that map came out during the mid-Season 1 update, which I believe was probably earlier than Treyarch originally anticipated. That's why they pulled the map forward, likely because it was done in development a little bit sooner than they originally planned. Now, is it possible that DLC 4 ends up releasing with Season 4 Reloaded? I mean, never say never, but I wouldn't want to get anybody's hopes up here. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that, and I do believe it's going to end up being the finale in Season 5, whereas Season 6 is going to be focused more on, let's say, extra game modes and, of course, the haunting. Now, these are my initial impressions about the return of Grief. So after about almost a week since the initial teaser for the mode, that obviously left fans very divided as to what the teaser even meant, I think first off, thank God that the mode supports 4v4. The original BO2 also supported 8-player Grief, so it would have been underwhelming if this mode only supported 2v2 on a much superior engine, so that's a plus. But my only gripe so far is that there aren't any wonder weapons allowed in the mode, which I think would have spiced things up a little bit, especially getting the swords on Citadel, or let's say the Mark II variants on Shattered Veil. It would have been cool to see how the Wonder Weapons could have impacted some gameplay. They could have just disabled the Wonder Bar Gobblegum, if anything, if that's what they were worried about. But like they also mentioned in the blog, things are subject to change, and more restrictions could either be lifted or added later on after the release of Grief, so keep that in mind. I'm also surprised that Perkaholic is one of the Gobblegums that didn't get banned from Grief. Maybe they'll change their mind on that a little bit later, but I also don't think Easter eggs would have made any sense for this mode. I'm kind of glad that the purpose of the mode isn't to just do the main quest with different modifiers. I'm glad that there's a big competitive aspect to it that is going to have you play these maps much differently than anybody has over the last couple of months since they've released. But this poll is honestly hilarious, right? Of course, everybody's going to vote for Richtofen, but as you can see in the caption, this is really important. A gameplay trailer, a dedicated trailer for Grief, is going to be releasing tomorrow on May 22nd. Again, you might be watching this video after that trailer's already gone up, which is fine because there's plenty of other surprises that you don't want to miss throughout this video, so feel free to refer to timestamps down below. But my reaction to the brand new Grief trailer will be up on the Detonated YouTube channel, or you could also react with me live on stream, since I'm going to schedule my broadcast as early as possible tomorrow. But jumping into which maps Grief supports, something that I didn't expect was for the mode to support every round-based map in Black Ops 6, especially if there's substance with the Grief game mode beyond just, hey, survive as long as you can till the other team dies. Call me shocked, but yes, every single round-based map is supported for this mode, with a catch. It is similar to the original BO2 Grief, where you can only play on certain subsections of each map. You can't access the entire environment as you could in regular standard or directed mode. So here's how it's going to work. In Liberty Falls, there's going to be 2 different Grief arenas. The first will cover Pump and Pay, Motor Lodge, and Fuller's Liberty Lanes, whereas the other arena will cover the Dark Ether Church, the Cemetery, and the Hilltop. So these are fairly small spaces, which of course are going to make for some hectic gameplay, especially considering that the zombies are scaled to 8 players that are in that match. It's going to be wild. But over in Terminus, there's also 2 arenas. One is the Biolab, and one is going to be Crab Island. Hopefully there's some boat races or something. However, I kind of doubt that. Now, over in Citadel, there's only 1 arena, but it does cover quite a bit of ground. We have the courtyard, ramparts, and even the entrance hall. So Citadel's kind of an oddly designed map where I guess they couldn't have really put together another arena because of how awkward the design is, but they did pick a pretty good space. So moving on to the tomb, we also have 2 arenas. One is going to cover the dig site and the mausoleum, and the other arena will cover the Dark Ether Nexus. Keep in mind, as they also mentioned, things like the Arsenal Machine, the Pack-a-Punch, Gobblegum Station, all of those things will be rearranged and put into new spawn points to fit these arenas. Hopefully that's clear. But surprisingly, in the Shattered Veil, there's 4 total arenas. So we have the Garden Pond and Lower Terrace as your first. The second arena covers the Upper Terrace, Shem's Henge, and Motor Court, whereas the third arena will cover the Mansion Foyer, Overlook, East Foyer, and even the Library. The fourth and final arena will cover the West Hallways, Southwest Balcony, and Bottlery. Kind of surprised they went with 4 arenas for this map, but it is the most recent round-based map after all. My fingers are also crossed that Janice towers get support for this mode later on this summer. But here's how the game mode itself actually plays. It does play quite differently from the original Grief, even though some of the ideas are relatively similar. It's been 13 years, so some changes were inevitable, right? So you're going to queue in with likely just your 4-player squad, and you have to randomly find 4 other players while searching for a lobby. Unless you can queue with 8, which I certainly hope so, I'm thinking that you're probably just going to have to rely on the matchmaking system to find 4 other opponents. But once you're in a lobby, you get to choose which side you want to go on, right? You can choose either Richthofen or SAM. And I'm sure if you're with a full 4-player squad, you'll all select the same side. Now, this isn't PvP in the sense that you can down some other player or shoot them and take things from them, but you can interact with the enemy team by body blocking, slowing them down using melee, bullet-based weapons, or projectiles, as you were also able to do in the original Grief. So the way that you win a match of Grief is making sure that the other team completely goes down and you surpass a round while that enemy team is down. You'll instantly win the game. But every third round is when dead players will respawn. So for example, if your squad has 4 players, 3 of you go down, but 1 person manages to keep going, after 3 rounds of that 1 person somehow making it, you'll end up having the rest of your squad finally respawn. Being revived sounds like it's pretty tough though, as apparently shock charges could be used to troll the enemy players, and you could also of course just keep shooting them, throwing grenades, and you can make it a living hell for another player to revive their teammate, especially considering the zombies that'll be spawning in at the same time. But another big part of the mode here is griefing. It's in the name, right? But you can capture zones, kind of like Hardpoint or Horde Point from MW3 multiplayer, that will spawn at regular intervals throughout the match. So as you step into a glowing perimeter, as we saw some limited footage of in the Season 4 launch trailer, you and your team will secure that zone by just staying there and dispatching the zombies at the same time. But you also want to kill the zombies that spawn in, which will fill a meter. And once you get enough kills to fill that meter, a Grief is going to be triggered on the opposing team. If for some reason neither team reaches the requirement within the countdown inside a capture zone to kill X amount of zombies, the Grief that'll randomly be selected will be applied to both teams. These are the Griefs, right? So as far as what it means to be griefed in a match, it's essentially a temporary debuff, penalty, or as they call a negative gameplay mechanic that will inflict on your rival team at a capture zone. So the type of grief that is about to impact the other team will be shown to you at the objective tracker within a capture zone, and these are all the possible griefs. You can be frozen, so this grief reduces the enemy player's movement, along with frost and ice coating the characters. There's weapon carousel, which means that the enemy team's gonna start playing gun game as they get kills. And then there's also zombie ambush. An elite zombie is summoned and is solely focused on that opposing team. And then there's ammo drain, where all ammo based weapons, including those stowed, will receive an ammo drain with bullets or shells being removed constantly while the grief is active. And then there's weapon nerf, which will affect the damage that the other team can actually do, but every grief runs on a timer, so you just gotta survive long enough for that grief to run out, and then you'll go back to normal. But here's some other miscellaneous changes with the Grief game mode. So a player can only join a match in progress up until round 10, and after that you won't be able to join anymore. Essence and Salvage is actually visible to everybody as it spawns from dead zombies, but only the first player who picks up the Salvage or Essence can actually earn it, and every single Salvage pickup is also going to be worth 100 instead of the usual, 50 that we're accustomed to. And zombies will also progress faster than usual, and the amount per round will have been increased to account for the 8 players in that match. Now, it doesn't sound like bosses actually spawn in unless you get that grief, which will spawn an elite enemy that attacks that other team. Now, I want to wrap this video by talking about potential post-launch updates and rewards inside of the new version of Grief. So they mentioned brand new score types in Black Ops 6 Grief, which include capture zone kills. That means you defeated a zombie type during a capture zone. There's also the capture zone win, which means your team successfully captured an entire zone. And there's also the capture zone elite kill, which means you killed an elite zombie while you're in an objective. Now, those new score types do sound like they're going to be pretty important for some upcoming events within zombies that may reward players with things that we're just not too familiar with yet, hopefully more than just gobblegums. But from June 26th to July 3rd, there's going to be something called the King of the Dead event. This will be for Black Ops 6 zombies exclusively, and all it says is eliminate zombies in any mode to earn points to climb the leaderboard. Sounds like a giant community event, which, like I've said before, I'm not really a fan of community events, especially the one we got in BO6, where there's going to be a giant leaderboard leaderboard that keeps track of everybody playing zombies in BO6, and I guess whoever manages to make it to the top 50, top 100, top 1,000, not sure on the details, they'll be given some pretty valuable rewards, while players below them will also still be given something. We're just not sure what that means yet. But something also mentioned is the Master of Grief event, which will start on July 10th and will end on the 17th, where it says collect Essence in Grief to earn points to climb the leaderboard. What I'm hoping is that there's going to be individual rewards like we've seen with previous community events in BO6 that you can guarantee yourself an unlock for if you just play, and then there'll be those giant community-wide leaderboards that I guess are going to track the absolute best of the best around the world. But it says at the end of the event, rewards will be granted based on your leaderboard position. Everyone receives some kind of reward, but to obtain the really good stuff, it's time to perfect your special and elite zombie slaying. So totally possible that a bunch of surprise rewards do get added to Grief later in Season 4, but as of now, it doesn't really sound like there's going to be much you can unlock by beating another team within Black Ops 6, but that's not the point of the mode at all, compared to the previous LTMs, which gave you calling cards, XP, or gobblegums for beating a quest or reaching a milestone while playing that mode. Now, something that really caught my attention is the fact that new Dark Ops challenges are going to be added in Season 4. This was something that got promised back in Season 1 Reloaded with the release of Citadel, where they mentioned the new Dark Ops would be added to at least DLC 1, but from how it sounds in the new blog, it seems like new Dark Ops challenges are going to be added to each round-based map in the game, but that's not all. The reason I'm bringing this up in a Grief focus video is because it seems like there might be at least one Grief Dark Ops challenge that we're going to be able to complete inside of our 4th season, which in turn may come with, let's say, a cool calling card or maybe even something else. But I wouldn't put it past them to add something even spicier as the months go on, because it doesn't sound like Grief is going to be going away anytime soon. Fingers also crossed the mode could carry forward to Black Ops 7 somehow, if that's possible, but that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on this big rundown of the new Grief experience out of Black Ops 6 Zombies? Figured I'd break things down in the easiest way possible, just to help folks understand how the mode exactly works, since there was a lot of info put in today's blog post. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.